What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Blood on the Razor Wire TV, where we bring it to you real and we bring it to you raw. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, share the video, make sure you leave a comment, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you know every time we drop a video. I got a special guest today that I'm bringing on the show out of Texas. He was tipped up with the Texas Mexican Mafia, spent some years of his life in prison in the youth authority. But I'm not going to tell you his story. I'm going to let Ghost tell you a story. Ghost, tell the people who you are, where you're from, and talk a little bit about you, brother.
All right, so I'm Ghost. I'm 39 years old. I'm San Antonio, Texas. I'll be 40 in a couple of weeks. I spent a good majority of my life incarcerated. I'll just say since I started off as a juvenile, I went to the Texas Youth Commission, which is the equivalent of a lockup for youth. They can at that time they could keep you to your 21st birthday. I was 17. I needed to go to a drug rehabilitation program, but I wasn't old enough. So my probation officer arranged it to have me in front of a judge the same day she was trying to get me help, and he sentenced me like right then and there on the spot. I think it was for the charge I was on probation for. And it was supposed to be a 9-month program. I turned it into a 2.5-year program, and that was mainly because I wasn't following the program rules. And one of the big rules they have there is confronting your roommates, confronting other youth there. If I see you doing something wrong, I'm supposed to tell the nearest staff member, and they do what's called a huddle up. And it's and the problem with this though is if you get 2 write-ups in a day, it can set you back in your program, and they can take privileges from you. It can even stop you from going home. So had a lot of problems with that. It was a program which in the words of one of the staff members there, her name was Miss Lee. She was a former guard in the Texas Department of Corrections, and she flat out told us all that everything they were teaching us in this program could get us killed in prison or on the streets, because it was snitching. It was about having integrity, doing the right thing because it was the right thing to do, that sort of thing. And a lot of us had problems with that. I wasn't the only one. So I guess I got smart later, and I worked it out with some of the guys. Like, okay, today I'm gonna tell on you for this or that. Somebody that wasn't in too deep in trouble that could afford it. So we worked it out. So I guess I just didn't want anybody to think I was doing it because I wanted to. I wanted them to understand, like, I got to get out of here. The only way I'm going to get out of here is I got to tell on you guys, So I made my way out of there, and when I did finally, it wasn't too long before I ended up going to state jail. And somebody gave me the bright idea that if I caught an adult case, I could get off of the TYC probation because they can keep you till you're 21. So they said, well, if you want to get off that, all you got to do is pick up a misdemeanor, and you can you can go in the adult system, and they automatically let you out of the TYC system. So I thought that was a good idea. It turned out it wasn't. This is kind of funny. So I caught a misdemeanor. Like I said, it was something small. Can't remember exactly what it was, but when I got released from the county jail, I think within maybe 30 or 45 minutes, I picked up a felony, a state jail felony. I went from there to go score some dope. I had a heroin problem. I ended up getting arrested for heroin possession within 45 minutes of leaving, and my grandmother was there, and that was not a good experience for her. She had no idea what was going on. Cops searched the vehicle, they found it, and I got a round of applause from the county jail booking when I came back. They said it was a record, for as fast as they just let me out, I was right back in. And anyway, so I ended up going to state jail, which is something different, something that seems to be only in Texas. It's right between a Class A misdemeanor and a 3rd-degree felony. It's a 4th-degree felony. There is such a thing, and what that means is they can give you up to 2 years, and it's day for day, so it's all flat time, and you get out. There's no probation, there's no parole officer or anything. It's just day for day. and you are serving it in a unit that's also houses Texas Department of Corrections inmates. So it's half state jail, half TDC, and it's run by TDC. So this place was notorious for a lot of fighting, and like I said, there's no stabbings, but you'd have the lock in the sock, what we used to call a jackmack. They used to take those jackmack cans and put them in socks, and they would knock you out with those until they took the cans away and replaced it with those little bags of fish, the little plastic bags. But you wouldn't see any stabbings. There was one that happened while I was there, and we went on a 90-day lockdown. It was in the middle of summertime. We got no air conditioning, so we're inside sweating our ass off all day. They wouldn't let you take showers. Remember one time I was so desperate to take a shower that I got some peanut butter and some chocolate and smeared it on some drawers and held it up to the picket so they could see it and be like, "Look, I just crapped myself. I need to take a shower." So I went and took a shower. Of course, they were flashing the lights, telling me to get out. But man, I was desperate. It was hot in there. People were falling out from what do they call it? Heat. What is that when you fall out from the heat? Like heat
exhaustion.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're in the feds. I don't know in the units you're at, you ever hear people falling out on the rec yards. But
man, I've been in prisons where it was so hot we didn't have air conditioner fans in Lexington, Kentucky, and Raybrook, New York, and people have fallen out. But you know what I want to do, Ghost? I want to take you to federal prison and the Texas Mexican Mafia. Okay. Because the number one question when people see the thumbnail, they want to know, how did a white dude end up tipped up with the Texas Mexican Mafia, who has a reputation for being brutal, right?
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of people, you don't see a lot of information about the Texas Mexican Mafia on a lot of, say, videos, locked up videos, things like that. There's a few, and you're not gonna get any, I guess, interviews from these guys, because one of the rules was they're not allowed, if you're an active member, so you're absolutely not allowed to speak to the media at all. You can't do interviews, you can't do things like that. I know the one channel came through and they were doing a story on the war that was going on with the Tonga Orejon and Mexican Mafia at the time. They were able to interview ex-members, of course, because they're ex, but they couldn't get the story from active members. So it's kind of I guess you could say it was a one-sided kind of thing, because the Orejons, they would get together in a group and speak. So
what's the consequences if someone like that did speak? I mean, they just get kicked out of the gang, or do they do something?
No, you're out of there. Yeah, you get they put the green light on. They call you Eckies. You're X'd out. Now, I mean, it depends. If you're in a jail setting and that happens, then they'll try to get at you. They might act like everything's cool, and the first chance they get, it's a no-no. But really, you won't even have an opportunity for that, because they won't even let the camera crews go in there. They won't even give them a chance to go in there. They know they're not allowed in there. So usually the guards will stop that. But you have some of these guys that they black out their identity and they let them speak on it. So you don't know if that's a legit person or what. Some of it seemed sketchy to me. But anyway, what my whole thing was me. I started off going to Bear County Jail, which is our jail here, and I was young. I've never been locked up, so I didn't run with nobody. I wasn't in a gang or anything, but I grew up around Mexicans, and when I got to jail, I noticed so I see the white guys in there, and at this time there was a few Aryan Brotherhood, ABT in there, and some other white guys, and I didn't like the way I saw the whites being treated in there. It seemed like the older guys were kind of extorting the younger one. I'll just call it like it is. They were extorting. If they had money, it was they were taking their money, just kind of mistreating them. I didn't like the look, from that. So I kind of stayed away from that. I didn't kick it around blacks at all. That was the thing. It was real segregated. back then. Very much about sticking to your race. So at this time, the Mexican Mafia had control of the jail. They had their tables and things, and Marcelli just happened to be he wasn't a member. He was a prospect. He was they call it a prospecto of the Mexican Mafia, and his name was Boxer. And he would give me a lot of school. He would lace me up on a lot of things. I remember I had some questions like I noticed that I would see a black, a white, and a Mexican having a discussion over the television, and about what they're watching. And being young, didn't understand that, and like, what are they talking about? Like, what's the big deal? Why do they have to all get together like that? He, would explain it to me. Well, you have to get with the speakers and work it out so we can avoid fights and things like that. Just little questions I had. And so I started hanging around these guys a lot. And well, what ended up happening was what got me started with them. We had they had at the time tables. They had their assigned seats where everybody sit down and eat, stuff like that. And I remember when I got to this unit, I knew some of the guys with Mexican Mafia, and I considered them like my friends or whatever. I wanted to sit down with them and eat. And when I went to put my tray down at the table, they were like, "Sorry, bro, you can't sit here. This is for certain people and what." And I was like, "Okay." So they said, "Tell you what, you can sit over here with these guys." Now at this time, these were the orejones. Well, we have orejones now. Back then, they were just mainly called tangos, which meant they were hometown. Your hometown. If a racial riot popped off, these were the guys that were like, the front line. They weren't a gang, but they were just there saying, hey, if something happens, we get together as a group and we're going to handle business. So they had their seating, right? So I went and sat down with these guys. So later on, sorry, while I'm talking to you, I'm getting bit up by my dog right now. Just bite my hand. I went to go sit down with these guys. So later I talked to this dude and with the MA, and I told him, hey, how can I sit down at the table with these guys, friends? They're like, well, man, and I'm gonna go ahead and break it down for y'all so you understand what I'm talking about. So back then you had a structure that's a little different today, but this is how it was originally when I went down. This is back in '99 and 2000. With the Mexican Mafia, you had what was called esquinas, which means your help. You're there to assist or help in other which way you can. You're not a member and associate, but you got love for them, you got heart, and it's kind of like we just call them associates basically. And so they call those esquinas. Well, when you're in the county jail, you've got the next step is something called esquina firmes, which are guys that they'll put in work, with their hands. These are the ones that hey, if somebody's getting out of line or something, they'll call you up and say, hey, bro, Ghost, we need you to handle this situation over here. You ready? And that just requires your fist, your hands mainly. You're not putting in work with the weapon yet. At that time, if you were going to put in work with the weapon, that meant that you were on your way to put in work to become a member or a prospect. So if you were a skin of feeding, you were just using your hands. You're giving a beat down, two guys, depending on, 2-on-1 situation. And the reason why they would do the 2-on-1 thing, a lot of times, not that you're jumping an individual necessarily. It's they don't want to take a chance on, on a 1-on-1, and it's using your hands. The guy that you're trying to drop gets the advantage, and ends up whooping you. It's not a good look. So just to make sure it gets done, they'll send like two guys in. And if it's one guy primarily doing the work, the other guy's there just to make sure that it's going right. If he has to lend a hand, he'll get in there with you. So so if you're known to do that and you're known to follow those directions and take care of business, they'll give you a title of esquina feedman, right? And this is only in the county jail. This isn't like in the prison system. Once you hit the prison system in the state, for example, then that's a little bit different. If you want to become a member, you have to follow certain steps. You have to get get school. It's a lot like some of the other families are in some ways, but you your first step is you got to know how to use your hands. Second step, as a prospect, you're required to use a weapon of some kind, a lock in a sock, or like I said, a can, something like that. But when you're actually to become a member, that's when you're going to use a knife. And and here's the thing: a lot of people don't understand. You are not allowed to put your hands on a member, even if they're Xing them out and he's the target. It's supposed to be a member handling another member, not supposed to be, say, a feedman or associate doing this. Unless you're a prospect and what they call a comeo, which is Spanish for work, putting in work. You got a comeo, and your comeo is you're gonna drop this guy now. He's no good. They're gonna put you usually with another member, so it's gonna be a prospect and a member that do the actual work on a member, unless it's specifically stated otherwise. But that's where you get into like politics and rules, and the crazy thing is, just like anything, some people run things differently, and I've seen a lot of guys that they don't get the right rundown, the right school of how they're supposed to take care of certain situations. Excuse me, and they think that they're doing something correctly, and they're not. Like, and this might get off track a little bit, but like I said, it's an example would be, say I'm in a unit, right, and I'm a prospect, and the guy in charge of us says, hey, I need you to hit this guy over here, and he's a member, but say he's got the light on. So my job as a prospect is there's only one rule, and that's to follow the medicine, or the carnal, the brother that gave me the order, without question. He tells me to do something, I'm supposed to do it, right? But let's say I go and I hit this guy, and come to find out later, that I'm in trouble. I'm like, why am I in trouble? They said, well, who gave you the order? Well, so and so gave me the order. Oh yeah, well, he wasn't supposed to do that, and well, I didn't know. I was following, so you don't know. You got to make sure you know what you're doing, and you've got the right knowledge before you act on anything. You've got to have, anybody can pick up a knife. Like, I don't say anybody, but a homosexual can use a weapon. You know what I'm saying? And stab somebody. But you got to have balls, and you got to have brains. You got to have intelligence. That's what they look for. They want people with intelligence as well as the ability to carry out violence.
Let me ask you this, right, Ghost? I want to ask you a couple questions. Being that you were a white dude in the Mexican Mafia, right? Texas Mexican Mafia. Did you ever feel like there were some of the brothers or some of the homies were like, didn't care for you? Some embraced you? Were there some that were like, he's a white dude?
To be honest with you, like, early on, okay, so here's the deal, I guess, and I got off a little off track, is they do make some exceptions, right? I've seen guys that are half Hawaiian. I've seen Japanese. We've even had a brother that was black. It's a very rare thing. But the deal is that in the Constitution. Now let me say this before I go on. I'm no longer a member. I stepped away in 2019 of August. I didn't get crossed out or X'd out. I stepped away for several different reasons, but when you see things just going a certain way and the eventual outcome, I felt like if I don't walk away now, I know what's going to end up happening to me. They either end up dead or just in prison for the rest of my life. And I did something I never thought I would do, and I called it quits. You know what I'm saying? I saw a lot of my best friends go to prison for a long time. Some other things happened I didn't agree with, and I just had said enough was enough.
So how long were you in the gang for?
Okay, so that's what I was going to get at. So basically, I started off as an associate for a long time and a prospect. I started around them back in early 2000. I didn't become a member until 2009, 2010. What ended up happening with that real quick is that so I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but there was a letter that went out basically, and it was addressing people that were of mixed blood or mixed races being in an organization. Now, the Constitution says you have to be 100% Mexican to become a member of the Mexican Mafia, right? But now there are those that make exceptions. If they all agree or they vote you in. But here's the problem with that: if this is a rule and this is an understanding that was, put on paper that, this is the rule, and somebody makes an exception or adjusts that, the only one that could do that is the president. The first guy in charge. Anybody else that does that is doing that on their on their own volition. You know what I mean? So technically, it's not right. And if a brother somewhere in another unit or something wants to make an issue out of it, technically they can. They can take it to the table. We call take it to the mess. They can say, hey, yes, I understand they made you a member, but they weren't right in doing that because the Constitution says that. And then, then it becomes a matter of they got to take it to the higher ups and discuss if they made the right move or not.
So you could put in work all these years for the gang, be loyal to the gang, and somebody might be like, man, I really don't care for this dude. I'm about to take it to the big homie. And this white dude ain't supposed to be an actual member. He can be a prospect, or he can be, really, man, sometimes people would just call them like hanger-ons, right? Like do boys. Yeah. So you could just be a do boy your whole for 10, 15 years, and then finally you get to the position that you wanted, and someone can come in and be like, hey, I don't like this dude. I'm taking this to the top. He's not Mexican. I don't want him around. How did you feel about that? Right. How did you feel about that?
Well, that's not exactly what happened, but you're completely right. That can happen just like that. I know somebody that situation like that happened. Now with me, this letter wasn't directed towards me. There was some other ones, but now what I ended up doing, right, was I went ahead and part of the letter said, look, now you have options, right? So my option was I can take it to the top, and I can, plead my case out, and write my letters and say my side of the story. Or if I decided to, I could step back and no repercussions would happen. I wouldn't be in bad standing or X'd out. I would just no longer be a member. But here's what I didn't understand, right? And I've had, like I said, different stories. Some will say, well, you can't be a member, but you can be a prospect. You can go as high as being a prospect. I say, why would you be a prospect if you can't be a member? The whole thing of being a prospect is to become a member. So what would I do that for? That doesn't make any sense. Or they say, well, you can be an associate, which they call a feedman, which is, you're like one step below a prospect. You're a real solid associate.
Really,
like
you're
Italian mafia.
Really, you're kind of but really, you're kind of like a do boy in that position.
Yeah, in some ways, they don't really look at them like do boy. It all depends on your reputation. They're very good about following your every step, where you've been, what you've done in the streets, because even associates are responsible to get out to report to somebody. They need to be able to trace every place you've been at, everywhere you've done time, who was there, what happened, so on. So they know all your background. What type of person they're dealing with. They know, is this guy just here trying to hang along for the ride, or is this guy really in this? Is his heart really in this? And with me, like I said, I'd done enough to that point and had a lot of respect from people that it really counted from. That I was never looked down upon because of my race or anything like that. It was really just a technicality type of thing. I had a lot of the higher ups kind of stick their neck out for me and put a good word in for me. But what I felt like was that I didn't want to stir the water a whole lot, and I felt like, to me it was just a title, so what I did was I said, that's cool. I'll step back. And what I was being told was, no, don't do that. You should take it to the top. We got, hey, all these brothers are behind you. And I said, yeah, but I'm cool. I'm still here. Like, in other words, I'm not going anywhere. Like, I could have walked away from the whole thing if I wanted, but I said, I'm not going to do that. I said, if that's all you're saying is that you just don't want me to be a brother because of my race, that's fine. I'll deal with that. And I'll still stay here because it don't change nothing. I'm still me. I still got love for y'all. And they respected that. The fact that I did that got me a lot further because it felt like, man, this dude could have walked away. He could have done this, but he chose to stick around anyway.
So, Ghost,
And
you end up in federal prison, right?
uh-huh.
And you go to where? Pollock, you were in Beaumont.
I was in Beaumont first, then went to Polo.
What was it like going to Beaumont?
Man, Beaumont was crazy. So I got to Beaumont. Now the penitentiary was closed at this time. This was 2010 when I got there. It was a medium. They called it Buddy Beaumont instead of Bloody Beaumont.
Yeah.
The pen was closed. Now the medium was where they had, your medium high. They had a little mixture of USP inmates, medium. And man, that place right there was there was something going on there every day, like as far as like some violence or some craziness going on. Primarily that was a Tonga blast yard. There was, can't remember the exact number. There's somewhere around 500, I want to say, different tongos and Tonga blasts. From San Antonio, there was maybe like 40 Orioles, and then you had, you've got Laredo and Corpus and all these other, Tonga Blast is Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, and what's the other one I'm missing? Did I just name 4?
Yeah. Hey, it's all right.
That's it.
Beaumont, a lot of violence there.
Yeah. So like I said, yeah, it was mainly Tongos. You had PRMs, you had some pistoletos, you had Mexican Mafia. When I got there, there was, I want to say there was like 75 or 80 of us there. It's a pretty good size number. We got Sureños later on. They weren't there when I got there. They started coming in later. When the yards start flipping, whatever. And let's see, and then you had your Aryan Brotherhoods. You had the Texas Aryan Brotherhood. I can't remember any ACs there. There might have been a couple of Aryan circles. You had a good amount of white independents on that yard, and your different black gangs.
Who had the yard?
It was a Tongo yard. It was definitely, because like they definitely had the numbers. There's about 500 of them.
They ever push against you guys?
No, not at all. No, see, they were at war with the Texas Syndicate and the Aztecas, the Barrio Aztecas, and no, they didn't have any beef with us. We were the only ones they didn't have an issue with. So we were there sharing the yard with them. We were the only family, other than the pistoletos. There wasn't very many of them on that yard. And we didn't have, not while I was there, we didn't have any issues with them. No, what ended up happening was when they started bringing the paisas in little by little. Now, we've had an ongoing war with them for a long time. Since there was a riot that happened at Three Rivers where some Mexican Mafia members were killed and some of them were killed. Ever since that happened, it's been just on site ever since. And they said there was never going to be peace. That it was just, that's the end of that. So this warden we had at Beaumont, I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, it was not Warden Outlaw. I think it was Warden Fox was the the warden of the whole place. Anyway, this warden, I can't think of his name off the top of my head. He was letting these paisas come out on the yard intentionally to get hit because he wanted the MA off the yard. So, because that was the last Texas yard they were in. Beaumont was it. There was no other yard in Texas that the Texas Mexican Mafia could walk on. So they try to get you as far away from your home region as possible. That's why they like to send you up to Pennsylvania or somewhere as far away. So every time a bus would come in, these paisas would get dropped, and I mean, they would, how SIS, when they come in, they look at your tattoos, they know who you are off the bus. They would let some of these guys come in with their tattoos and everything, showing who they are, and intentionally Like one time they put him right in one of our brother's cells, made him celly. And that was it. Like they just happened to put him in that cell with that dude, so something would happen.
You ever have to put in
And
any work? That's what I want to know.
did I? Yeah, of course. I started off, like I said, early on, using my hands, whatnot. Now because I was white, they didn't. I don't want to say they made me do, more than the next guy. That and I guess that's where I was fortunate is that I didn't have a lot of issues about me being white, and I think part of the reason is because I never tried to portray myself to be anything. I didn't try to, to act, I would say act Mexican, but I never tried to fake myself. I was always the same. I was just me. I was also intelligent. They liked the intelligence I had. I was resourceful with things. I was good at kind of thinking outside the box a little bit. I wasn't I wasn't afraid to speak my mind on things. There are men just like me, and
Men
a
respect
lot of
men,
it,
right, Ghost?
yeah, and that's what I felt like. There's, for example, I was in Forest City. This was back in '07. Forest City was a fairly newer unit. It was a medium. Um, and this was a yard. There was Mexican Mafia, Texas Syndicate, Aryan Circle, ABT. It was mostly all families on the yard back then. Well, we had this one individual. I'm not going to say his name on here, but we'll call him Lobo. And Lobo, he was supposed to be one of the original founding members of the Mexican Mafia, and he was on the unit. And I wasn't a member at this time. I was. I was. It wasn't until I got out of there that's when I actually became a member. I became a member on the street. Um, well, Lobo was, highly respected. A lot of guys they kind of feared this guy because he didn't play. He didn't play no games. Well, I mean, I'm talking about he'd walk out in the rec yard, having guys carrying his bag for him. When you talk about do boys and stuff like that, so I mean, you got these guys that are, they're all over him. Like can I get you something? Can I get you a water? Like I don't do that. I'm not carrying your. I don't care who you are. I'm not carrying your bag. I'm not following you around. I'm not worshiping the ground you walk on because you got this reputation. You're a man just like I am. And I'm not gonna. When I see how it looks and other guys see how it looks, I don't want to look like that. So while these guys are running off, I'm over here off to the side doing something else. And I'll never forget when this guy started talking to me. Now he tripped out on me when he got there, or I'm sorry, when I got there, and I went and sat down at the table with him in the chow hall. I could see him over there asking, "Who's this? Who's this white guy?" I said, "Oh, he's at the wrong table." I'd have the white guys coming over and tell me, "Hey, man, you're not supposed to sit here." He's like, "I got this." And well, he came and sat down next to me one day. He started kind of talking to me a little bit, and he liked the way I talked to him. He liked the way I answered questions, and asked me, what I was doing in this for. Look, my whole thing is I got involved with them for money reasons. I sold drugs a lot growing up, and I looked at them at first as a drug connection. San Antonio, Texas, South Texas especially. The heroin trade is real big here. So that was kind of my motives when I first got in with them is like this is a drug connection for me because the side of town that I lived on was primarily white guys, so they couldn't go to the neighborhoods I could go to get these drugs that they wanted. So I was able to kind of move around these neighborhoods that they couldn't go in and deal with people, and I got good deals on drugs and was able to make money off of that. So so being out on the street had a lot of weight. So when I did go back to prison, they said, "Oh, you were also out there on the street." And if you're not a member or a prospect at this time, you weren't required to be out on the street with them. You didn't have to report or be out there in the mix. But I was, so I was around them. So that kind of carried some weight that hey, okay, he's really about that. He's out there with these guys doing the stuff. Nobody's forcing him. Nobody asked him. He volunteered. Sorry, my mouth's a little dry. So anyway, this guy Wolf. I'm just gonna tell you a crazy story about this guy. All right. Now, I don't know. I'm sure you've seen this. I've heard y'all talk about prison punks and stuff like that. And amongst Mexicans, especially if you're in a family or a gang, it's yeah, you don't mess with punks. Back in the early '80s and stuff, they used to call them kids. They used to say, you had a little punk if you had a lot of time, to wash your clothes and do all that kind of stuff. Okay, well, uh, we had this punk there in Forest City, and this punk looked like a female. It looked like Tony Soprano's daughter, Meadow Soprano. Like, I mean, you walk by and you like, you know, this you could tell a punk. This one just looked like a female. Well, he was from San Antonio, and the story was is his brother was one of our people, so they were supposed to look after him. You know what I'm saying? But you would see like some of these guys on the cool, like you could tell they were infatuated with this punk. His name was Marissa. All right, and so I'm just gonna put this out there, and like I said, I've never told anybody this story, let alone an audience. But uh, what ended up happening was this. Okay, so Marissa was in a cell with one of our homeboys, right? His name was Flacco, and yeah, he was supposed to be in the cell with him so they could keep an eye on him, look out for him. You know, this is crazy to me. Well, one night the officer's going by doing his rounds, passes by Flacco's cell, and Flacco's in there getting to work on Marissa and in the bunk. And the officer's like, "Hey man, stop doing that!" And he's banging on the window. "Hey, stop!" And Flacco turned around, like he just kept going. He's like, "Man, I'm caught. I might as well finish." So they take them to the shoe. And I'm hearing the story the next day, like, wow, like, okay, well, I'm not surprised now. And I knew this guy Flacco from the street. And I was like, wow, his family, when I tell his brothers what he was doing in there when he gets home, I'm like, oh man. So I'm thinking they're never coming out. This guy is not going to come out of the shoe and face the music for that. You know what I'm saying? He's gone. No, he came back out. Him and Marissa came out of the shoe, and he came out. He faced the consequences. He said, "Well, I don't know if he was told nothing would happen to him when he came out, but he came out. I was surprised. I was like, wow, this dude's pretty brave coming out, So we ended up going to a meeting, and this is what Lobo told us. He goes, all right, now with Flacco doing that, okay, he's gonna get disciplined for that. They're gonna take him in a corner. They're gonna beat the brakes off of him for however long, and that's gonna be his punishment. And they're gonna charge him some money. They he tells us in the group, he goes, if y'all wanna hit the punk, y'all gotta pay. And some of us are looking at each other like, what? What do you mean we gotta pay? Like, what? Like, nah, we don't get down like that. What are you talking about? You of all people, you're telling us if we want to have sex with another man, we can as long as we're paying. Like, is this a joke? Nah, he was dead serious. And man, you could tell that this dude Lobo, this feared, respected individual that was also speaking for us, had a thing for this dude Marissa, all right? And now Lobo had done a lot of time segregation. He did over 20 plus years by himself in a cell in the state before he went to the feds. And I don't know if that did something to his mind or what, but you could tell that he really thought this was like a woman and I would even catch some of these guys holding the door open for him like it was a woman, things like that. There's some of us sitting over here like, man, this ain't cool at all, man. I don't what. So, like I said, I wasn't a member at the time, but they would tell me everything. And that's the thing is that throughout my time with these guys, I was somebody they could confide in a lot. They told me a lot of things that they normally wouldn't tell somebody that wasn't a member outsider because I guess they liked my insight on things. I don't know what it was really, maybe my personality, but I was privy to.
Tell us what happened with Lobo. Tell us what happened with Wolf.
He he ended up.
We've been on here a long time, so we're gonna end the video soon. But
Oh,
Tell
okay,
us.
okay. Well, he made this really stupid decision to move one of his own brothers out of the cell and put Marissa in the cell, which everyone on the compound, was looking at like wow, that ain't that something, So we're going to a chow one day, and the Texas Syndicate. Uh, Texas Syndicate ends up coming up to him and pulling him aside, saying, "Hey, man, like that don't look right." You know what I'm saying? Like, with all due respect, we're just saying how it looks, and they kind of pulled his coat on that. And Lowell gave him a look like, you're telling, who are you to tell me what to do? And it was just a whole messy thing going on. Like, I was like, man, this is over a dude. You know what I mean? Like, why? Well, this punk would talk to me, because he worked on the rec yard, so he would tell me stuff like, man, Ghost, I don't know what to do. Like, I know I'm causing a problem. So one day I flat out told him, you know what you need to do? I said, after chow, you need to go hit that corner pocket, knock on the door, and tell him I need to get up off the yard. I said, it's causing a problem. It's making us look bad. I said, he understood I wasn't trying to insult him. I said, but it's a problem. You don't like being in the cell with this dude. Just go. Just get off the yard. And that's what he did. He went and checked in, and the only other person that knew it was Marcelli, who was a pro, and he goes, man, if Lobo found out what you did, man, you'd be out of there. But we kept it between us. I said I wanted to get him out of there because of what he was doing. So
Yeah.
the word got around the system about what he was doing there, and for whatever reason or another, they let him make it. They let him make it, but then he went to it was Lewisburg or one of the two, and they made him clean it up over there, do some work and stuff. Yeah, man, he would. I'd never seen nothing like that, like messing with the punk, things like that. So you get these individuals, and they all run things a certain way. They all got their rules and regulations, things, and some might like, some might not. It's just like with any group, you have people that hate on each other. They may not like you because you make more money than the next guy, or you got this or that, and I don't like all that kind of stuff. When you're locked up, we're grown men. Sometimes we're in a dangerous environment. You know what I'm saying? We're supposed to be backing each other up. Our lives depend on it. And I want to be able to trust who I've got around me, just like they got to trust me that I'm gonna do my part if something happens.
And you know what, Ghost? Sometimes it ain't always like that, right? People got their own
No,
hidden agendas, and that stuff happens.
uh,
But I'm gonna, you're free. You've been home a while, and
yeah,
this show is really centered towards saving kids from life imprisonment,
yeah,
premature death in the streets, right? And a lot of that stuff comes back to why I interview gang members, bro, because I want
uh,
people to see that people like you and people like myself and others that I've had on the show, where when we first get involved, we're like, man, this is a brotherhood. These are my
right,
homeboys. These are my
right,
family away from my family. And then all the things that you think, man, usually it don't turn out that way in the end for a lot of
exactly,
gangs. Usually it's they
exactly,
got a hidden agenda. Or you might be like, man, this could be my connection when I get out. Or, hey, look,
exactly.
man, go hit this dude or go do this or go do that. And at the end of the day, guess what? That gang life ain't really that life, is it?
Nah, and that's the thing. That's you said it exactly. A lot of guys come into it thinking they're gonna find, like you said, a family, a brotherhood, because of the names. They call them families or famas or brotherhoods or things. It sounds like, oh man, this is these guys. Like, this is my home away from home. This is my new family. These guys are gonna, these are the ones I can turn to or talk to when I have problems. But at the end of the day, that's not what it is. In essence, it's supposed to be a money making organization. You're in prison, and as you know, in prison you can make a lot of money dealing drugs in prison than you can on the streets and things like that. And for the guys that are really with that mindset, it's not a game. It's not a thing to play with. Or if you're looking for a new friend, that's not the place to find it. You're in prison, and when you get to places like Pollock and Beaumont, things like that's when you find out, like, okay, this is serious business here. For a city that was a medium, stabbings ain't rare occurrence. You get to somewhere like Pollock, what they call a slaughterhouse in the South, where dudes are getting aired out. It's not a game. You got And as you know, you've got a lot of good times in prison at times. You know, you have your good days, and at the flip of a dime, split second, things can just erupt
And
around
you
you.
you were at USP Pollock. I want the viewers to know that, right? And you've seen a lot of dangerous things. We'll probably bring you on for a part two, but I want to ask you two questions because we're going to get ready to close the show, right?
Sure, sure.
The one question I want to ask you is this: are you glad you left the gang?
Yeah, absolutely. It was the best thing I could ever. I'll tell you what. Like, I used to look down on that. I used to say that people that did that were trash. They were weak. You know, I said I'm gonna stay here till the ship sinks. You know, I'm not going anywhere. But then you get older, and and after things that I've seen and been through, there's no payoff. You're not. It's not like in the movies. You're not swimming in money and you know all that. It's not like that. You're sacrificing your life. There's no real cause behind it. Now, the only reason I stuck around as long as I did is because over time I did feel like I made some actual friends through the organization. I mean, we spent birthdays and holidays together, so in some ways it definitely became more than just being a part of that group. But when my best friend got picked up by the feds and was indicted on some stuff, when he disappeared, and he was the one calling the shots out in the streets for several years, I quit. I said, I'm done. He's gone. I don't. These other cats that are gonna try to come in, I don't mess with them like that. I don't even know them. You know, you've got people in and out the system. I just said,
That was
now
it.
is my chance. Now is my time to walk away.
You saved your
I said
life
it.
by walking away. You
I
saved your
did.
life. So
And I
look,
feel for once I'm my own man now. It's like a relief, you know. And it wasn't always easy. I'm gonna say it hasn't always been easy. A lot of things kind of changed in my life in some ways, but definitely it's much better. And I wish I had done that a long time ago. And I don't think I would have went to prison or done half the things I've done if I had been with these guys in the first place. I
you know,
just had this.
I'm just going to take that, what you just said, as your message to kids or to your younger self, right? And, we've been on here a long time, so I'm going to close the show, but definitely going to probably bring you back on for a part two, all right?
Yeah, sure. That way we can talk a little more. I kind of, like I said, this is my first time doing it, and I've like I said, I've seen a lot. Been through. We could definitely get into some more aspects. You know, it's just trying to run down 20-year span of all this in a few minutes, kind of. And I have like anxiety as it is, so it's like the days kind of fused together.
It's
So
all
it's,
good, man. I'm going to close the show and tell people, man, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. Blood on the razor wire with respect. Until tomorrow, we're out.